One tire company just changed hands for the second time in 5 years. Most of its customers found out from a press release. Another 100-year-old chain got sold again this week to a buyer most of its own customers have never even heard of. A billionaire investor bought that same 100-year-old tire brand, kept the land under it, and sold the stores off like furniture he was done with. And one tire recall from 25 years ago still shows up in federal safety records with a death count most people never learned about. We pulled the SEC filings, the ownership records, the court documents, and the federal investigation history behind the biggest names in American tire retail. 5 of these brands are quietly owned by the same handful of spreadsheets. 5 of them are still run by the people whose actual names are on the building. Maybe you're reading this while your car sits in a waiting room right now, staring at a bill you weren't planning on. By the end of this, you'll know exactly who owns the shop you're about to drive into before you ever hand over your keys. Let's get into it. Number 5. NTB, short for National Tire and Battery, sounds like it's been sitting on your corner forever, with over 350 locations spread across the country today. It sounds like it's been run by the same people since your dad bought tires there. It hasn't. NTB was created in 1997 when 2 Sears-owned tire chains got merged together on paper. The local name you grew up with started life as a corporate decision, not a handshake. In 2003, it got handed to TBC Corporation, a company that buys tires by the truckload and resells them to other stores. 2 years after that, TBC itself got bought by Sumitomo Corporation of America, a huge Japanese company that trades all kinds of goods around the world. For over a decade, the store on your corner answered to a boardroom on the other side of the planet. Then in 2020, NTB started getting folded into Mavis Tire. The full handover finished in 2023. That's 4 different owners in 26 years, and the sign out front never once told you which one you were dealing with that day. Walk into an NTB expecting the same people who patched your dad's flat, and you're not getting that. You're getting whoever currently holds the paperwork. Right now, that's Mavis. Remember that name. It's about to come up a lot more on this list, and here's why the ownership actually matters, not just as trivia. If your alignment feels off 2 days after the appointment, you're not calling a person who remembers you. You're calling whichever company currently holds the deed, and that company's real customer isn't you. It's whoever bought them. What happened to the next name on this list didn't take 26 years like it did for NTB. It took 1 phone call. This week. Number 4. Pep Boys was started in 1921 by 3 Navy veterans named Manny, Mo, and Jack. For most of the last century, it was one of the most recognized names in American auto care. In 2016, Icon Enterprises bought Pep Boys outright and took it private for just over $1 billion. That's the investment company run by billionaire Carl Icahn, known for buying companies and shaking them up. Icahn's company kept the land under all nearly 800 Pep Boys locations, along with other repair brands like Amco and Precision Tune. Here's the part that makes this genuinely current, not old news. This week, Icon Enterprises agreed to sell the actual Pep Boys stores to Mavis Tire for $700 million. Icon kept the land underneath those same stores for itself. Read that again. The company that owns the buildings just sold off the business running inside them to yet another buyer, and it keeps collecting rent either way. When Icon Enterprises announced the sale, its chairman didn't say a word about the technicians or the regulars who've been coming in for decades. In his own press release, Carl Icahn said the deal would work because of the inevitable economies of scale. Economies of scale. That's the phrase a 100-year-old family name gets reduced to on the day it changes hands again. Mavis's own co-CEO described the deal as bringing a distribution network that will meaningfully enhance our supply chain nationwide, not customers. Not the people fixing your car, supply chain. If you've ever pulled into a Pep Boys thinking you were dealing with a century-old family auto shop, here's the truth. You were actually dealing with a company that owns the buildings, collects the rent, and swaps out whoever runs the store inside whenever it wants. The Pep Boys name outlived Manny, Mo, and Jack by 100 years. It didn't outlive the spreadsheet. And notice what actually happened here. A 100-year-old company changed hands between 2 billionaires in a single week. The only people who found out from a headline instead of a boardroom were the ones actually buying the tires. The next entry on this list isn't about who owns the company at all. It's about what happens when the owner already knows something is dangerous and stays quiet anyway. Number 3. Firestone. This isn't some scandal from last year. It's a documented federal case that still shapes how tires get tested today. It's worth remembering exactly what happened. Tread separation means the outer layer of rubber literally peels off the tire while it's still spinning at highway speed. On a top-heavy SUV, that can flip the whole vehicle. In 1996, the state of Arizona formally warned Firestone that its tires were coming apart in hot weather. Firestone didn't recall a single tire. By 1997, the company had already received more than 1,500 legal claims over tire failures, injuries, and deaths. It still didn't recall anything. It took until May of 2000 for federal safety regulators to open a formal investigation. That started with 90 complaints tied to 4 confirmed deaths. That number did not stay at 4. By the end of August 2000, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration had linked 88 deaths and more than 250 injuries to tread separation on Firestone tires. Most of them happened on Ford Explorers that rolled over after a tire shredded apart at highway speed. Firestone finally recalled 6.5 million tires on August 9, 2000. Most of those tires had been riding on Ford Explorers the entire time. That's 4 years after the first official warning sat on someone's desk. 88 deaths. 4 years of warning signs that stayed in a filing cabinet instead of getting acted on. That's not a rumor. That's a federal timeline, on the record. Firestone Complete Auto Care stores are still open across the country today, selling tires under that same name, to people who mostly have no idea any of this ever happened. The lesson here isn't that Firestone's tires today are dangerous. It's that a company can know about a life-threatening pattern for 4 straight years and keep selling anyway. It took the federal government forcing its hand to make it stop. If knowing that makes you want to go check the date codes on your own tires tonight, subscribe to this channel right now. We pull records like this every single week, and every single week there's another name you'd never have suspected. What's coming at number 2 involves a level of money trickery that makes Firestone's silence look almost simple by comparison. Number 2. Mavis Tire likes to tell its story as a family business, and it did start that way. It traces back to a small bicycle repair shop from 1949, before the Sorbaro family built it into an actual tire chain in 1972. Here's what private equity actually means, in plain terms. It's a firm that buys a company. Often with borrowed money the company itself now has to pay back. It grows the company fast, then sells it again a few years later for a profit. The company almost never gets to just sit still and run well, and since 2014, Mavis has been passed between these kinds of firms like a hot potato nobody wants to be holding when the music stops. First, a firm called OnCap bought in. Then Golden Gate Capital took over in 2018. Then in 2021, a group led by Bay Pine and TSG Consumer Partners bought more than half the company, in a deal reportedly worth around $6 billion, including debt. Here's the detail that should actually bother you. While that sale was happening, a snow removal contractor named Nest sued Mavis. The lawsuit says Mavis simply stopped paying more than 2,200 invoices worth $2.4 million, claiming vague service failures it never once specified. A company being sold for billions couldn't find the paperwork to explain why it stopped paying a snow removal crew. That's not a rounding error. That's a company treating a small vendor like an afterthought. In the exact same week, its own owners were cashing out for a fortune. 2,205 invoices, $2.4 million, withheld the same week. The sale hit $6 billion. If a company can decide a vendor's bill just doesn't matter during its own multi-billion-dollar payday, ask yourself how it decides whether your warranty claim matters. The Sorbaro family name is still attached to Mavis today. The decisions haven't only been theirs to make for a long time, and here's the part that ties every single name on this worst list together into one uncomfortable fact. Number 1. Here's the fact that should change how you think about every single name on this list. Mavis Tire doesn't just own Mavis stores. By buying up brand after brand over the years, Mavis now also owns Midas, Tuffy, Tire Kingdom, NTB, and, as of this very week, Pep Boys. That's 5 separate brands, 5 separate signs, 5 separate storefronts you might drive between, hunting for a second opinion, all reporting up to the exact same ownership group, which now runs more than 4,400 service centers across the US and Canada. Think about what that actually means the next time you get quoted a price you're not sure about, and decide to check somewhere else just to compare. If the somewhere else is Midas or Tuffy or Tire Kingdom or NTB or Pep Boys, you didn't get a second opinion. You called the same company back, on a different phone line, wearing a different colored shirt. Shopping around only works if the shops are actually different companies. For a huge share of the tire industry right now, they are not. If that number surprised you, it should. And if you've been meaning to subscribe to this channel, this is the moment. because we're about to flip the entire story on its head. Now here's what a tire shop looks like when the name on the building still answers to somebody who has to look you in the eye. Number 5. Sullivan Tire has been a family business in New England since the 1950s. In 2023, the Sullivan family did something almost nobody in this industry ever does. Instead of selling to private equity, they set up something called an employee stock ownership plan. That's just a legal way to turn employees into actual part owners, instead of just people who collect a paycheck. The plan handed full ownership to the company's own workers, close to 1,500 of them, across 79 retail locations and 17 commercial truck centers. Robert and Paul Sullivan stayed on as chairman and vice chair, but the ownership itself, the thing that decides who profits when the company does well, now belongs to the mechanics and service writers who show up every day. When you're sitting in that waiting room, the person changing your tire isn't just an employee hoping some distant investor notices their work. They're an owner. That changes what good enough means when nobody's checking over their shoulder. It's the exact opposite of what happened to that snow removal crew Mavis stopped paying. Here, the person doing the actual work is the one who profits when the company gets it right. Paul Sullivan, whose parents founded the company, said it plainly when the plan was announced. The future would be shepherded by the people who have all played a role in building it, not a private equity fund's plan to cash out. The actual people. Number 4. Belle Tire started in Detroit in 1922, founded by a man named Sam Ways. It has stayed under one family's control since the Barnes family bought full ownership in 1984. No private equity firm has ever taken a stake in it. No investment bank has ever flipped it to a new buyer looking to squeeze more margin out of the same stores. It's grown to more than 180 locations across Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. The same slow, boring way most real family businesses grow. One good year at a time, reinvested into the next one. Compare that to NTB's 4 owners in 26 years, or Pep Boys getting flipped between billionaires in a single week. There's no press release explaining a sudden ownership change at Belle Tire, because there hasn't been one in over 40 years. Don Barnes III, who runs the company today, put the whole philosophy in 13 plain words. Our job is to get our neighbors back on the road, not shareholders, not a fund. Neighbors. That's not a marketing angle. That's just what it looks like when nobody's trying to sell the company out from under the people actually running it. The next name on this list doesn't even have a founder's name over the door, and it still found its own way to earn that same kind of trust. Number 3. Costco Tire Center doesn't have a founder's name over the door the way Belle Tire or Sullivan does, but it built something almost as rare into the way it pays its own people. Costco pays its tire center employees a strong enough wage that they don't work on commission. That means the person helping you pick tires has no financial reason to steer you toward the more expensive set. Every set already includes installation, rotation, balancing, and a road hazard warranty, covering flat repairs and a partial refund if a tire can't be fixed, all built into the price instead of upsold at the counter afterward. It's a small choice in how the company pays its people, but it removes the exact reason a tire recommendation turns into a sales pitch. You don't have to trust that the employee is simply a good person. The company already removed the reason for them not to be. Compare that to a commission-based counter, where every upsell puts a few extra dollars directly into the hand of the person recommending it. That's not a character flaw in any one employee. That's a setup working against you, and Costco is one of the few places in this industry that took the setup apart on purpose. What happened at the next entry proves that getting bought out doesn't always mean getting sold out. Number 2. Tire Rack started in 1979 in South Bend, Indiana, founded by the Veldman family. It built something nobody else in this industry had at the time. A way to research and buy tires online and have them shipped straight to a local installer. Decades before that felt normal to anyone. In December 2021, Discount Tire bought Tire Rack. Most bought-out founders quietly disappear. The Veldmans did the opposite. They actually joined Discount Tire's board of directors. That's the version of getting bought out that doesn't strip a company down for parts and sell off the pieces. Sometimes one independent company buying another one means the founders end up with more say, not less. It's proof that getting bigger and staying honest aren't automatically opposites, as long as the people doing the buying still answer to something other than a fund's plan to cash out and move on. Notice the difference between this deal and Mavis swallowing Pep Boys. One handed the founding family a seat at the table. The other handed a 100-year-old brand to a buyer most of its customers had never even heard of. And that brings us to the company at the very top of this list, the one this whole video has been building toward. Number 1. In 1960, before your parents were likely even born, a 30-year-old man named Bruce Halley opened a tire store inside an old plumbing warehouse in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He had 6 tires, 2 were new, 4 were retreads. He funded the whole thing with a $400 loan. He was the accountant, the salesman, the technician, and the sign painter, all at once, because he was the only employee the store had. Years later, asked about those early days, Halley described it in his own words as simply trying to make a living, buy bread and milk, pay the rent. That's all he started with, and he said as much himself in the title of his own biography, 6 Tires, No Plan. That store became Discount Tire, and today it's the largest independent tire and wheel retailer in the entire world, with more than 1,200 stores across 39 states and roughly $9.7 billion in revenue. Halley ran the company until he died in 2018, and his family still controls it today. It's still privately held, it has never once been taken public, and it has never once been sold to a private equity fund looking to flip it in 5 years for a profit. Compare that to Mavis, sold 3 times since 2014, or Pep Boys, sold twice in the last 10 years alone. Discount Tire has had exactly one ownership story since 1960, and that story is a family that simply never let go. One of Discount Tire's return policy commercials, the one showing a customer rolling a used tire back through the store window, has run continuously since the 1970s. Guinness World Records recognizes it as the longest-running television advertisement in history. No private equity firm has ever torn that culture apart from the inside. No outside investor has ever split off the real estate and left the stores behind as tenants. No hedge fund has ever bought this company, merged it with 3 competitors, and sold the pieces off 5 years later for a return. Somewhere back in 1960, a man with 6 tires and a plumbing warehouse built something that has now outlasted every single buyout on this entire list. Older than your parents' first car, and it's still just standing there, family-owned, never once sold out,